Hello again. We've finished our Rhino session now, and so I'm going to introduce the Illustrator interface in a video so that we can save precious class time for other more important things. So this is Illustrator, of course, and you'll notice it's kind of similar to other Adobe products. It has a workspace switcher up here. I'd recommend Essentials, similar to Photoshop. And yours may or may not come up with the welcome screen. If it does, then that's perfectly fine. I believe under help, yes, I can say welcome screen here, and so I can walk you through what you might be seeing. So I'll say welcome screen. So if you do see this, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. What we're going to basically do is the same thing, which is go to create new, and we're going to say print document. And you could also go to File, New. So this is what comes up if you either click on New Document or else go to File, New Document. You can name this something if you want. I'll name it Demo. And then the way Illustrator works is that you actually work with these things called artboards. And so the most pertinent use of this for what we do is presentation boards. And so if you're planning on doing two boards 24 by 36, you would say two artboards. And the spacing is the spacing between the artboards. It really doesn't matter because you'll end up printing up and there'll be separate prints. So the spacing doesn't matter much except for layout. You might prefer to have this at 0 if you're doing a continuous spread from one board to the next. Size, so let's say 36 inches, and you can set your units here by 24. So now I've got 2 at 36 by 24. And we can click this Advanced button if we choose to. Definitely you'll want your color mode at CMYK. That's when we chose print document, that told it that we wanted CMYK. With web document, we would have actually gotten RGB. So CMYK is what you want. And 300 is fine, points per inch, and you might think of it as dots per inch too. So, and these little icons here are just, if you had more than 2 boards, it would say 1, 2, 3, 4, or else 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just basically your layout. So we'll say OK. And here's the basic layout for Illustrator. It's really the only way, in my opinion, to lay out a presentation board, at least with Adobe software. You don't want to be doing your presentation boards in Photoshop because it gets too heavy too fast. So, and if you ever decide to change the size of your presentation boards, you can go up here to Document Setup, click on it, and say Edit Artboards. And so then you can create new ones, or you can resize old ones. I'm going to undo that. Control Z, as always, undoes things. So I hit Escape, and I get back to where I was. So with Illustrator, you have there's a whole big concept here with Illustrator that is huge that you really need to understand from the get-go, and that is when you put images on a presentation board, it is actually often, not always, but depending on what you choose, it is linked. And so what that does is it's not actually putting the presentation board in your file, I mean the image in your file. It's just linking it, saying, by the way, over here on your hard drive is this one image, and we want to put it here, and we're not going to embed it, we're just going to link it. And you can always embed it, but then you end up with massive Illustrator files, and you might as well be using Photoshop. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to go to File, and Place is the go-to place. This is what you're going to be clicking all the time when you make a presentation board. Click Place. And then I have a whole bunch of images on my desktop because I've been working with some renderings. And so I'm going to say, I'll just go with this one. And notice this button right here called Link. Well, if we check it, or uncheck it, that either links or embeds. And because this is a small file, it doesn't matter that much, but if it was 50 megs, or even a Photoshop file, you'll notice you can embed Photoshop files, then this link becomes really important. You do not want to start embedding 50 megabyte files in your Illustrator file. You might even get a corrupted file after one or two of those. So I'll just say place, and then it just places it here. This is a render I've been working on. I can, if I decide, okay, well, I really want it down here, then I can just move it there. And you'll notice that Illustrator snaps, so it goes snap to the edge, snap to the top, and it even says intersect. And if you want to resize it, you can click and drag on the edge. As always, if you hold down Shift, it gives you proportional enlargement. So there you go. You get this nice, clean a way of, and we can place another one here. Let's see if I have anything else on my desktop. I have quite a few. So let's see this one. So then I put this over here, and I could resize this to be whatever I wanted. And notice if I resize it down, it actually will often, it may not snap from artboard to artboard. I believe that it usually does, so maybe it's just acting up. Here we go. It snaps within the artboard at least to connect the bottoms of these, and also if we moved them together, it'll snap and connect them together. So that's a pretty nice feature because it lets you line things up precisely. And you can also, with Control R, you can turn on rulers, and you can drag out, just like in Photoshop, you can drag out rulers and snap rulers. And so that's one way to get from an artboard to an artboard if it doesn't want to snap for you. Also, I will point out that over here, this links button, you'll notice we have now 2 links. And also, if we selected these files, we get this option to embed. If I did that, then it would actually place this in my file, so when I saved it, then it would actually have this file within it. As it is, if I moved this file off of my desktop, it would break the link, and so that would be a bad thing. And it would actually come up with a warning over here under the links menu and say, by the way, your link is missing. And one final thing that I would recommend that you do right off the bat is make sure that when you say File, Save As, and you say demo.ai, which is Adobe Illustrator extension, so .ai is Adobe Illustrator, typical file. That's the standard file to work in. I'll say Save. What I recommend you do is always make sure this Create PDF Compatible File is unchecked. I find this to be a pointless option, and what it does is it creates massive files, and you can have save times of up to 5 or 10 minutes. And what it's actually doing is it's actually embedding, because it's PDF compatible, it's actually embedding these in. Even though they're links, it's actually placing them in your file every time you save. And so you get corrupted files sometimes if you have big presentation boards like we often do in Studio. And you'll also find your save times go through the roof, even though you're linking all your files. So I would recommend keeping this unchecked. So I'll say OK. And that's it. You've saved your first presentation board. And next video we'll talk about text and strokes and fills and things like that. So there's a lot of depth to Adobe Illustrator, but it's a great program to use.